Captain Jake Morrison stood at the command center of the Earth defense cruiser Valiant. His eyes were fixed on the massive display screen that showed space around Earth. What he saw made his blood run cold. Hundreds of alien ships filled the dark space beyond the moon. They were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals that seemed to bend light around them. The alien fleet had appeared without warning 3 hours ago. No attack, no demands, just silent arrival. Now they waited in perfect formation like sharks circling, wounded prey. Jake had been in space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the lead ship," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. "They want to speak with Earth's leaders." Jake nodded. "Put it through to NORAD. Admiral Carter needs to hear this." 3,000 miles below, Admiral Lisa Carter sat in the war room buried deep under Cheyenne Mountain. The walls were lined with screens showing every human ship in the solar system. Earth had maybe 50 combat vessels total. The alien fleet had at least 300 ships, each one the size of a city. The transmission crackled to life. The voice that came through was cold and mechanical, speaking perfect English with no accent at all. "People of Earth, I am Speaker Vex of the Galactic Confederation. Your species has been observed and judged. You will answer for your crimes against galactic peace." Admiral Carter leaned forward. "What crimes? We've never attacked any alien worlds. You expand too fast. You build too many weapons. You show too much aggression. In 200 years, you have spread to 12 star systems. This speed frightens the galaxy. Your military grows stronger each year. You are dangerous." Dr. Alex Rodriguez, Earth's top expert on alien species, sat in the corner taking notes. He had studied every piece of alien technology Earth had ever found. He knew more about their biology than most aliens knew about humans. What he heard in the speaker's voice was not anger or justice. It was fear. "What do you want from us?" "Admiral," Carter asked, "the Confederation has 47 member worlds. Each will vote on your fate. The vote will happen in 7 days. You will accept whatever we decide. This is how galactic law works. This is how it has always worked." The transmission ended. The room fell silent except for the hum of computers and the distant sound of air recyclers. Admiral Carter looked around at her staff. These were the best military minds Earth had produced. They had fought pirates, rebels, and hostile aliens on the frontier, but nothing had prepared them for this. "What are our options?" she asked. Colonel Ryan Mitchell, head of Earth's defense planning, spoke first. "We can't win a straight fight. They outnumber us 6-1, and their ships are more advanced. If they want to destroy Earth, they can do it." "What about evacuation?" asked Dr. Rodriguez. "Where would we go?" "They control the jump points. They could hunt down every human ship in the galaxy if they wanted to." Admiral Carter stood up and walked to the main display. It showed Earth in real time, blue and green and beautiful. Home to 8 billion people who had no idea their entire species was about to be judged by aliens who feared them. "Get me President Sullivan," she said. 2 hours later, President Kate Sullivan stood in the Oval Office speaking to the nation. The camera showed her clearly, but they could not see the reports scattered on her desk. Reports about alien technology, human military strength, and the terrible odds Earth faced. "My fellow Americans and citizens of Earth," she began. "Today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that our neighbors do not welcome us. They believe humanity is too dangerous to remain free." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to watch. In schools, offices, homes, and military bases, humans listened to their leader tell them that their entire future hung in the balance. They have called us aggressive. They say we expand too quickly, that we build too many weapons, that we threaten galactic peace. They want to judge us, to vote on whether we deserve to exist as a free species. President Sullivan's voice grew stronger. "I have a message for these aliens who think they can decide our fate. We are Americans. We are British, Chinese, Russian, Brazilian, Nigerian, and every other nationality on this planet. But more than that, we are human. We have never bowed to tyranny, and we will not start now. The speech lasted 20 minutes. By the time it ended, every human colony, every ship captain, every soldier and scientist knew what was coming. Earth would not accept the aliens' judgment quietly. In the depths of space, Speaker Vex watched the human transmission with growing unease. His species had conquered dozens of worlds over the centuries. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched young species struggle against the inevitable weight of galactic law. But the humans were different. Every other species, when faced with Confederation judgment, had begged for mercy. They had promised to change, to limit themselves, to accept whatever restrictions were imposed. The humans had not begged. They had not even seemed afraid. This worried Speaker Vex more than he wanted to admit. The Confederation had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years by making sure that no single species became too powerful. They had perfected the art of keeping younger civilizations weak and dependent, but humanity had grown strong in isolation. They had developed technologies the Confederation did not fully understand. Worse, they had developed an attitude that threatened everything the old powers had built. The vote would proceed as planned. The outcome was certain. But Speaker Vex had a growing feeling that the humans would not accept defeat as gracefully as expected. He was right to be worried. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. In the 3 weeks since the Battle of Sol, the Confederation's iron grip on galactic civilization had begun to crack like ice in spring. Commander Helen Davis stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Pioneer, reading the latest intelligence reports from across known space. Her ship had been conducting diplomatic missions to dozens of worlds, and the results amazed her. Everywhere humans went, they found species ready to throw off the chains of Confederation rule. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the Kepler system," reported Communications Officer Tony Rodriguez. "The colonial government there is asking for Earth's protection. They say Confederation forces are massing at their borders." Davis nodded. This was the 15th system to request Earth's help in just 2 days. The Confederation was trying to crush the rebellion before it could spread further, but they were too late. The fire of freedom was already burning across the galaxy. Dr. Marcus Webb worked day and night in his laboratory aboard the research station orbiting Mars. His job was to analyze intercepted Confederation communications, and what he found painted a clear picture of an empire in panic. The secret files he had decoded revealed the truth about the Confederation's history. They had not built their empire through noble ideals or superior technology. They had used fear, manipulation, and economic control to keep younger species dependent on them. For thousands of years, whenever a species showed signs of becoming too independent or too advanced, the Confederation would find excuses to limit them. Trade restrictions, technology bans, military oversight. Always justified as keeping galactic peace, but really designed to prevent any challenge to their power. The Zephyrian system had been the first to break free after Earth's victory. Within hours of the Battle of Sol, rebels on 17 Zephyrian worlds had risen up against their Confederation governors. The insect-like Zephyrians had been conquered 3 centuries ago, but they had never forgotten their freedom. Now their crystal ships filled the space around their homeworld, and their ancient battle songs could be heard across subspace radio frequencies. The Confederation garrison had surrendered without a fight when they realized no help was coming. Similar uprisings were happening everywhere. The stone mines of Rigel had declared their independence and sealed their borders. The Nomad fleet had openly allied with Earth and was using their trade routes to spread human technology to rebel worlds. But the Confederation was not giving up without a fight. Speaker Vex had returned to the hegemony homeworld in disgrace, his massive fleet reduced to scrap metal by primitive humans. The ruling council had stripped him of his position and appointed war leader Krath to deal with the growing crisis. Krath was different from the politicians who usually ran the Confederation. He was a warrior from the old school, back when the hegemony had conquered worlds through military might instead of bureaucratic manipulation. He believed the galaxy's problems could be solved with enough firepower. "Assemble every ship we have. Krath ordered his admirals. Call in vessels from every member world. We will build a fleet so large that these rebels will surrender at the sight of it. The response was immediate. From 30 star systems, warships began gathering at the hegemony core worlds. Ancient dreadnoughts that had been in storage for centuries were brought back into service. Planetary defense fleets were stripped from their home systems and added to the growing armada. The final count was staggering. 2,000 ships carrying weapons that could destroy entire planets, crewed by soldiers from dozens of different species. The largest military force in galactic history, designed to crush the human rebellion once and for all. Admiral Carter received reports of the gathering storm from her intelligence network. Human agents embedded in Confederation territory sent coded messages describing the massive fleet being assembled. The numbers were frightening even to her experienced military mind. "They're not just coming for Earth this time," she told President Sullivan during their daily briefing. "They're coming for every world that has declared independence. They want to make an example that will terrify the galaxy into submission." President Sullivan looked at the tactical displays showing the Confederation's massive fleet. "How long do we have?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. They're still gathering ships and supplies, but when they move, they'll hit us with everything they have. The president was quiet for a long moment. "What are our chances?" Admiral Carter was honest. "Against a force that size, conventional tactics won't work, but we're not planning to fight conventionally." Dr. Emma Foster had been working around the clock since the first battle, developing new applications for her quantum disruption technology. The field that had disabled the Confederation fleet at Earth was just the beginning of what human science could achieve. "We can scale up the disruption field," she explained to the Emergency War Council. "Instead of just disabling their ships, we can create a cascade effect that will shut down their entire fleet permanently. But we need to get close, enough to their main formation." General Brooks studied the tactical projections. "That means getting within weapons range of 2,000 enemy ships. Even with our technology, that's suicide." "Not if we don't go alone," Admiral Carter said. She activated the galactic communication system that connected Earth to every rebel world. "This is Admiral Carter of the Terran Defense Force. The Confederation is assembling a massive fleet to crush our rebellion. We need every ship, every weapon, every brave soul willing to fight for freedom." The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Zephyrian crystal ships would come. The stone-mined war barges would join the fight. The Nomad fleet would bring their fast attack ships. Even species that had been neutral were offering to help. Commander Davis watched from the Pioneer as rebel fleets began gathering in the outer solar system. She had never seen anything like it. Ships from dozens of different worlds built with completely different technologies, all united by a common desire for freedom. The Kepler colonial ships looked like floating cities. The Zephyrian vessels were works of art made from living crystal. The stone-mined barges were massive chunks of rock covered in weapons. The Nomad fleet brought ships that could change shape as they flew. But the most impressive sight was the human fleet itself. In the weeks since the first battle, Earth's shipyards had been working day and night. New ships rolled out of the construction bays every day, each one equipped with the latest quantum technology. Dr. Webb's final intelligence report was both encouraging and terrifying. The Confederation fleet was indeed massive, but it was also their last hope. If they lost this battle, they would have no reserves left. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier they had was being committed to this final assault. They're betting everything on one massive attack, Webb reported to the War Council. "If we can defeat this fleet, the Confederation will collapse. But if we lose, every rebel world will be crushed, and the galaxy will never be free." Admiral Carter looked around the room at the leaders who would decide humanity's fate. "Then, we better not lose." The final battle was coming. 2,000 Confederation ships against the combined fleets of every free world in the galaxy. The outcome would determine whether the galaxy remained under the boot of ancient tyrants, or whether freedom would finally have a chance to flourish. But first they had to survive what was coming. The grand chamber of the Confederation flagship was the size of a football stadium. Floating platforms held representatives from 47 different worlds, each one glowing with the light of their home star. The walls showed images of distant planets, some covered in ice, others burning with eternal fire, and many that looked nothing like Earth. Ambassador Nick Thompson stood behind a wall of crackling energy that kept the human delegation separate from the rest. He was not allowed to speak during the vote. Earth could only watch as their fate was decided by creatures who had never set foot on human soil. Dr. Sam Harrison stood beside the ambassador, taking notes on everything he saw. As Earth's representative to the Confederation Science Council, he had spent 2 years learning about alien technology and culture. What he discovered had shocked him. These advanced civilizations were not advancing anymore. They had been doing the same things for thousands of years. The vote began with the Zephyrians, a species that looked like giant insects with crystal wings. Their representative spoke in clicking sounds that the translation device turned into cold words. Humanity is a virus, the translation said. They spread too fast, they take too much. They must be stopped before they infect the whole galaxy. We vote yes for restrictions. One by one, the species cast their votes. The Melkari, who lived on gas giant planets, voted yes. The stone mines from the Rigel system voted yes. The energy beings from Vega voted yes. Each vote came with reasons that sounded the same. Humans were too aggressive, too fast, too dangerous. Ambassador Thompson watched the vote counter climb. 20 votes for restrictions. 25. 30. His face showed no emotion, but inside he was thinking about everything Earth had discovered about the Confederation in the past 7 days. The intelligence reports had been clear. The Confederation was not what it claimed to be. It was not a peaceful alliance of equals working for galactic harmony. It was a system designed to keep power in the hands of a few old species while keeping everyone else weak and dependent. Dr. Harrison had uncovered the truth in the Confederation's own records. For 10,000 years they had used the same method. When a young species showed too much promise, they would find reasons to vote restrictions on them. Military limits, technology, bans, trade controls. Always justified as keeping the peace. The Polari voted yes. The Void Swimmers voted yes. 35 votes for restrictions now. The requirements were harsh. Earth's space fleet would be reduced to 20 ships. No more expansion beyond the 12 systems humans already controlled. Confederation observers would be stationed in every human city. But 8 species voted no. The Kepler colony, founded only 300 years ago, remembered what it felt like to be judged by older powers. The free traders of the Outer Rim knew that restricting humanity would hurt business across the galaxy. The nomad fleet who traveled between stars without permanent homes believed that space belonged to everyone. When the final vote was counted, the result was clear. 39 votes for restrictions, 8 votes against. The chamber filled with satisfied sounds from dozens of different species. Justice had been served. The dangerous humans had been contained. Speaker Vex floated forward on his platform. His species, the hegemony, had controlled the Confederation for 5,000 years. They were ancient, powerful, and used to being obeyed. The vote is complete, Speaker Vex announced. By the law of the Confederation, humanity will accept these restrictions. Your fleet will be reduced. Your expansion will stop. Observers will monitor your compliance. This is final. The energy barrier around the human delegation flickered and died. Ambassador Thompson was finally allowed to speak. The chamber fell, silent, waiting for the usual response. Other species had begged for mercy at this point. Some had wept. All had accepted their fate. Ambassador Thompson stepped forward. He looked around the chamber at creatures from across the galaxy. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others were made of living rock or pure energy. But they all expected the same thing from him: submission. Instead, Thompson smiled. Earth formally rejects the authority of this vote, he said clearly. We withdraw from all Confederation treaties. We do not recognize your right to judge us. We are going home. The chamber exploded into chaos. Representatives shouted in languages that sounded like music, grinding metal, and electronic noise. The translation devices could not keep up with the flood of outrage and disbelief. In 10,000 years of Confederation history, no species had ever rejected a vote. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. It was the end of everything they understood. about how the galaxy worked. Speaker Vex's platform jerked forward. You cannot reject the vote. It is law. It is final. You will comply. No, Ambassador Thompson said simply. We will not. Dr. Harrison activated his communicator. Admiral Carter, this is Harrison. Operation Sovereign Dawn is approved. Repeat. Operation Sovereign Dawn is approved. The message flashed across space at faster than light speed. On every human ship in the galaxy, captains received the same order. Return to Earth immediately. The Confederation had shown its true face, and humanity was done pretending to be civilized. Captain Morrison received the order aboard the Valiant. He had been waiting for this moment for 7 days. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency to prepare for what was coming. All hands, this is the captain, Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. We are going home. We are going to show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth. The human fleet began to move. Ships that had been scattered across the galaxy turned toward home. Trade vessels, exploration ships, military cruisers, and research platforms all received the same order. Come home. Come home now. In the Confederation chamber, chaos continued to spread. Some species demanded immediate military action against Earth. Others worried about what this rejection meant for their own futures. If humans could reject Confederation authority, what was to stop other species from doing the same? Speaker Vex tried to restore order, but his voice was lost in the noise. For the first time in thousands of years, the Confederation was facing something they had never planned for, a species that refused to bow. Ambassador Thompson gathered his small delegation and walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop them. The aliens were too shocked to react. As the humans left the chamber, Thompson spoke one last time. You wanted to judge us, he said. Now you will learn what it means to be judged by humans. The transport ship carrying the human delegation left the Confederation flagship and began the journey back to Earth. Behind them, the most powerful alliance in galactic history struggled to understand what had just happened. They had expected submission. They had gotten defiance. They had expected fear. They had gotten determination. They had expected another conquered species to add to their collection. Instead, they had created an enemy unlike anything they had ever faced. An enemy that did not know how to surrender. 2 weeks after Ambassador Thompson's rejection of the galactic vote, the Confederation fleet surrounded Earth. Speaker Vex had brought 800 ships from 30 different worlds. The largest military force in galactic history hung in the darkness around humanity's home planet like a metal storm cloud. Speaker Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at Earth through the viewing screen. The blue and green world looked peaceful and defenseless. His intelligence report said humans had fewer than 60 combat ships in their entire fleet. This would be over quickly. Send the surrender demand, he ordered his communications officer. The message was simple and direct. Earth had 24 hours to accept the Confederation's restrictions or face complete destruction. Their fleet would be destroyed, their colonies occupied, and their homeworld placed under direct alien control. Colonel Ryan Mitchell received the message in the command bunker on Luna. He read it twice, then deleted it without answering. The aliens would get their response soon enough, but not in the way they expected. For 2 weeks, while the Confederation gathered their massive fleet, Earth had been busy. Every human ship in the galaxy had returned home. But more than that, systems that had been hidden for years were finally coming online. Dr. Emma Foster worked in a laboratory buried deep under the Rocky Mountains. She had been developing quantum disruption technology for 5 years, waiting for the day when Earth might need it. That day had finally come. The field generators are ready, she told Colonel Mitchell over the secure communication line. When you give the word, every alien ship will lose shield power and weapons control. How long will it last? Mitchell asked. Long enough, Foster replied. Their technology depends on quantum field stability. Once we disrupt that, they'll be flying. Blind. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the alien fleet through his ship's sensors. The Confederation ships were arranged in perfect attack formation, clearly expecting Earth's small fleet to charge at them in a hopeless battle. They had no idea what humans actually had planned. "Sir, we're getting reports from all defense stations," Lieutenant Brooks said from her position. "The asteroid bases are armed and ready. The orbital platforms are online. The moon installations are prepared for combat." Morrison nodded. The Confederation's intelligence about human military strength had been completely wrong. They thought Earth had a few dozen ships and some basic defense satellites. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for this exact situation for decades. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system to every human ship and station in the solar system. "This is Admiral Carter to all forces. The aliens think we're going to fight like other species they've conquered. They think we'll follow their rules of war, minimize casualties, and try to negotiate when we start losing." She paused, letting her words sink in. "They're wrong. We're not fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting for the right to exist as free beings. There are no rules in this fight except one. We win or we die trying." The Confederation fleet began to move toward Earth. 800 ships in perfect formation, their weapons powered up and shields at maximum strength. Speaker Vex expected the human fleet to meet them halfway, probably with some brave speech about defending their homeworld. Instead, something impossible happened. The alien ships suddenly lost power to their shields. Weapon systems went offline. Communication networks failed. Navigation computers showed error messages in languages the translation systems could not understand. Dr. Foster's quantum disruption field had activated across the entire solar system. Every piece of alien technology that depended on stable quantum fields was now useless. The mighty Confederation fleet found themselves flying blind in ships that barely responded to controls. "What is happening?" Speaker Vex demanded, but his crew had no answers. Their instruments showed that some kind of field was interfering with their technology, but they had never seen anything like it. That was when Earth's real defenses revealed themselves. Asteroid mining stations that the aliens had dismissed as civilian operations suddenly opened fire with weapons that could punch through starship hulls. Orbital platforms that looked like communication satellites began launching missiles that moved faster than anything in the Confederation arsenal. Hidden bases on the dark side of the moon fired particle beams that cut through alien ships like knives through paper. Defense stations built inside hollowed-out asteroids opened massive doors and deployed weapons the size of skyscrapers. Captain Morrison watched from the Valiant as the first wave of Confederation ships tried to retreat. They found their faster-than-light drives would not engage while inside the disruption field. They were trapped in the solar system with technology that barely worked, facing defenses they had never imagined. The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it was over, 237 Confederation ships were floating dead in space, their crews alive but their vessels completely disabled. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. Most had never even fired a shot. General Peter Brooks spoke from the Lunar Command Center, his words broadcast to every alien ship in the system. "Confederation fleet, you have 48 hours to leave our solar system. Any ship remaining after B. That time will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." Speaker Vex sat in his command chair, staring at displays that showed the wreckage of the most powerful fleet ever assembled. In 18 minutes, humans had crippled a force that could have conquered half the galaxy. They had done it without breaking their own laws of war, without killing unnecessarily, but with a level of technological superiority that terrified him. The humans had been hiding their true capabilities for years. While the Confederation debated whether they were dangerous, Earth had been building weapons and defenses that made alien technology look primitive. But the worst part was not the military defeat. The worst part was what it meant for the rest of the galaxy. If humans could reject Confederation authority and back up that rejection with force, what would stop other species from doing the same? On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Morrison received reports from across the solar system. Human colonies that had been cut off during the crisis were reporting strange communications from alien worlds. Messages asking for help, for protection, for alliance with Earth. The Confederation had ruled through fear for 10,000 years. They had convinced dozens of species that resistance was impossible, that submission was the only path to survival. But humans had just proven that resistance was not only possible, it could be victorious. Admiral Carter stood in the war room under Cheyenne Mountain, watching as Confederation ships began to limp away from Earth. Some were being towed by others. Many would need months of repairs before they could reach their home systems. "Ma'am," Colonel Mitchell said quietly, "we're getting reports from intelligence sources across the galaxy. 17 systems have declared independence from the Confederation in the last 6 hours. The Zephyrian rebels have taken control of 3 planets. The free traders are openly refusing to follow Confederation shipping regulations." Admiral Carter nodded. She had expected this. When you showed the galaxy that the Emperor had no clothes, people stopped being afraid of him. "Send a message to all human ships," she said. "We're not conquerors, we're liberators. Any species that wants freedom from Confederation control can find it with us." The battle was over, but the war for galactic freedom had just begun. The Battle of Sol began at dawn on Earth time. War leader Krath's massive fleet of 2,000 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system like a metal avalanche. Their formation stretched across space for millions of miles, blotting out the stars with the largest military force ever assembled. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the enemy fleet approach. Beside Earth's defenders waited ships from 20 different rebel worlds. Crystal vessels from Zephyria glowed like living jewels. Stone-mined barges looked like flying mountains covered in weapons. Nomad fleet ships shifted and changed shape as they prepared for battle. The combined rebel fleet numbered 800 ships. They were outnumbered more than 2 to 1, but every crew member knew what they were fighting for. This was not about territory or resources. This was about the right to be free. War leader Krath opened communications to the rebel fleet. His voice carried the arrogance of 10,000 years of Confederation rule. "Surrender now, and some of you may live. Continue this rebellion, and every world that defied us will burn. This is your final warning." Admiral Carter's response was broadcast to every ship in both fleets. "This is Admiral Lisa Carter of the Free Worlds. We do not surrender to tyrants. We do not bow to oppressors. Today we show the galaxy what freedom looks like." The Confederation fleet began its attack. Massive energy beams lanced across space, striking the rebel ships with enough power to crack planets. The first Zephyrian crystal ship to be hit exploded in a shower of rainbow light. A stone-mined barge took 3 direct hits before its rocky hull cracked and split apart. But the rebel fleet did not retreat. Instead, they charged straight into the enemy formation, firing everything they had. Human ships led the attack, their quantum weapons tearing through Confederation shields like paper. Behind them came the aliens who had chosen freedom over slavery. Dr. Emma Foster watched the battle from her control station deep under Luna. Her quantum disruption generators were ready, but she needed the rebel fleet to get close enough to the enemy command ships. The cascade effect would only work if she could hit the right targets. "Admiral, our ships are taking heavy losses," reported Colonel Mitchell. "We've lost 30 vessels already, and the battle just started." Admiral Carter nodded grimly. The plan had always been risky. They needed to get close enough to use Foster's weapon, but that meant flying through the concentrated fire of 2,000 enemy ships. Many brave souls would die before this was over. Captain Morrison guided the Valiant through a storm of enemy fire, weaving between energy beams that could vaporize his ship in an instant. Around him, other human vessels pushed deeper into the Confederation formation, taking hits but refusing to stop. The Nomad fleet ships proved their worth using their shape-changing ability to confuse enemy targeting systems. A ship that looked like a harmless transport would suddenly sprout weapon pods and fire at point-blank range. The Zephyrian crystal ships moved like dancers, their translucent hulls bending light to make them hard to target. War leader Krath watched from his command ship as the rebels pressed their attack. He had expected them to break and run when they saw the size of his fleet. Instead, they fought with a desperation and courage that reminded him of the ancient wars when his own people had been young and hungry. "Focus all fire on the human ships," he ordered. "They are the heart of this rebellion. Destroy them and the others will surrender. But even as Confederation weapons targeted the human vessels, the rebels continued their advance. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to give up now. Every ship that fell was replaced by two more pushing forward. Dr. Foster saw her chance when the human fleet reached the center of the enemy formation. "Admiral, I have a clear shot at their command cluster. Activating quantum cascade in 3, 2, 1. The effect was immediate and devastating. The quantum disruption field that had disabled the first Confederation fleet was nothing compared to what Foster had built for this battle. The cascade spread from ship to ship, causing a chain reaction that shut down every piece of advanced technology in the enemy fleet. 2,000 Confederation ships suddenly found themselves floating dead in space. Their weapons powered down. Their shields collapsed. Their engines went silent. The most powerful fleet in galactic history had been reduced to helpless metal in the span of 30 seconds. But Foster's weapon had done more than just disable the enemy ships. As the quantum cascade spread, it began affecting the ships themselves. The advanced alloys that made up their hulls started to break apart at the molecular level. Energy cores that had powered them for centuries began to fade. War leader Krath watched in horror as his mighty fleet simply dissolved around him. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds crumbled like sandcastles in the tide. Weapons that could destroy planets fell apart like toys made of paper. The Confederation fleet was not just defeated, it was unmade, reduced to particles that scattered in the solar wind. In less than an hour, the largest military force in galactic history had ceased to exist. Captain Morrison stared at the empty space where 2,000 enemy ships had been floating just moments before. The silence after the battle was deafening. Around the solar system, rebel ships slowly emerged from the quantum field, their crews stunned by what they had witnessed, the communication channels filled with voices from across the galaxy. On Confederation worlds, garrison commanders reported that their orders were to surrender immediately. Local governments that had been under alien control for centuries declared their independence. The hegemony homeworld itself was in chaos as the ruling council fled, and their own people rose up against them. Admiral Carter's voice cut through the celebration. "This is Admiral Carter to all free worlds. The Confederation is finished. Their fleet is gone. Their government is collapsing and their empire is dead. But our work is not done. We must build something better in its place." Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed itself. The Terran Alliance, as Earth's new government was called, offered technology and protection to any world that wanted freedom. Human ships spread across space not as conquerors but as teachers and guardians. Dr. Marcus Webb established the first Galactic Freedom Council, with representatives from every species that had joined the rebellion. For the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy was ruled by cooperation instead of fear. Ambassador Nick Thompson, now serving as Earth's first galactic secretary, addressed the new council from its headquarters on the former Confederation capital world. "We did not seek to rule the galaxy," he said to representatives from 100 different species. "We sought to free it. Today, every being in known space has the right to reach for the stars without asking permission from anyone." The age of the Confederation was over. The age of freedom had begun. President Kate Sullivan's final address to the people of Earth was simple and direct. They thought we would accept their vote. They thought we would bow to their judgment. They thought humans were just another species to be controlled. They were wrong about everything. She paused, looking out at the stars that now belong to all free beings. We showed them what humans do when threatened. We showed them what freedom looks like. And we showed the galaxy that no one, anywhere, ever has to bow to tyranny again. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what it needed.